Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Sudha Jamte, and here you are, end of the week, Friday, for Sudha Live. And for those of you who are joining me from Singapore or Vietnam or China, where it's your weekend already, I have extra appreciation for you finding this time to hang around with me. And this is streaming live on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and YouTube. But I'm going to be looking at LinkedIn to see whether I can respond to your comments if you're joining me there. Okay, so we talk about AI opportunities, and it could be jobs, fellowships, interesting opportunities, events. I love events, especially after the pandemic. There's been like so many events and so many people trying to find time to share their expertise. So I'll be sharing some of those. But the expectation today, or my plan today, is, I always start with congratulations of one of my students because they do amazing things that keeps me going. And then I'll have a short segment with an expert guest. And today we are going to be looking at a job which is UX in blockchain space. And of course, we have the hiring manager here to talk about the job and what does bringing UX in blockchain actually mean? What does it look like? So we'll get to that in about 10 minutes. And then I have a bunch of opportunities, and we are getting to the end of the year. So I'm going to, cram it up and give you a lot. And my favorite, I teach AI at Stanford Continuing Studies for Product and Business Managers, and my research is in AIX design to bring ethical design of AI in all possible areas and in autonomous vehicles, specifically focused on value creation from data and making, inclusive AI. So I'm always got my, eye on what's happening in AV space. And it could be the social media feeds, but it seems to have come alive. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about things I see happening in the AV space or the connected vehicle space, mobility space, essentially. But I'm not even talking mobility. This week, it's going to be purely AV and data in the vehicle and where that's going. And I'm a technology futurist. So I'm always looking with that lens on, okay, there is a new tech, but where's the business? Where's the money? Where are the jobs? And so that's how I'll be coming at it. I just don't get excited about tech for the sake of tech. I do, but that's not what I'm going to be sharing with you. Okay. So who am I going to congratulate this week? Today, December 10 here in US, we had Yashashwini Vishwanath, who is the host of Weekly Wednesday and one of my students from my AI ethics course. She's a data scientist from Bangalore. She presented at IoT Slam. And it's doubly interesting for me because IoT Slam is one of my favorite online events. And even before we got on to the whole world of Zoom and being online, IoT Slam was there as a pioneer in the space, creating online events. I've spoken at different IoT Slams over the years, about 12 times, I want to say, on various different topics. And today, our own Yashashwini, Yash, was talking about fairness analysis and bias mitigation to build a responsible AI system. And she says it's IoT environment. From what I heard of it, it's not limited to IoT environment. What I liked about it, and being a data scientist, she was talking to the data scientists. For those of you who are working with data, maybe data engineering somewhere in the spectrum, but building real AI on, think about ethics as not some abstract thing that happens to the other and who is left behind, but take responsibility for what you're building and saying, what I'm building, is it fair? And what was fascinating was she shared a variety of different metrics. Previously, she's shown us IBM Fairness Analyzer, IBM 360 Fairness Analyzer. That's out there. You can access it if you want for free. But she looked at specific metrics on the same thing. So if you're in a team, one of the things that happens when you build AI is it's never done by just the data scientist or the business person or the vendor who's coming in with the amazing technology promise. It's a group effort with variety of different voices in there. And so when you're looking at the data and you say, I want to make it fair, everybody would have a different point of view, and you attempt to make it fair in one way. they would come up with a use case where that would fail. So the best logical way to do that is think about different metrics that you will apply to make sure that what you're building is fair. And fair means it's without any bias, and bias has been mitigated. So that's the concept. So look out for this paper. If you missed it, look out for this paper. IoT Slam will be making their presentations available, and maybe you can go catch a glimpse of that. Or maybe we can convince Yash to come and talk about it to us. And then for those of you who are new here, I do this Sudha Live once every week. And then my students come together on a speaker series called Weekly Ved on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. here in Silicon Valley, which is 18 hours in Nigeria and Europe. I think it's 1 o'clock in Brazil. And Yash hosts that speaker series. And this week, we had a fantastic speaker. We've not had somebody join us from South Sudan in the past. So I was very, very thrilled. We had Yene Yankee, who joined us, and she told us, hey, I run a group to get girls to get into STEM. And so we have, that was our expectation. And she blew our mind because she was doing so much more. I like, how when tech is applied to go solve a local problem, that's very dear to me. Tech for the sake of tech is good for getting started. That's what happens in Silicon Valley. But then if you have a real business problem, you're going to solve for either your customer from your business or for your local region. What you would think of as what is your problem is not going to be the same. So I have done STEM classes for middle schoolers and volunteered and taught students. And I sit on as a judge for various different STEM and STEAM competitions. But my passion is I want you to focus on building something that solves a problem and do this ethically with a very pluralistic, diverse perspective. And so that's why in all my speakers and all my activities, I try to bring a diverse group of people in perspective. So I get very excited when somebody comes up with a perspective, which is something not how I looked at. So when I heard Yankee talk about South Sudan and her Go Girls IoT initiative to teach girls to get more into science and STEM, it was the same motivation like Girls Who Code here in US and several such events and activities. Code.org offers that. There's so much that there are so many such initiatives to get more people to learn tech and to code. But you don't need to actually code to do tech. You can actually solve a problem. So what she did was she said, I want to get people to learn to build IoT, to go become the IT repair person for their schools. And she ran extracurricular programs, but it is funded by UN. But the leadership she displayed just blew us away. So I'm going to show you. Yes, she's asking her question, being the host. Let me get there. 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. It's actually, we streamed Weekly Wednesday on to Business School of AI this week. And starting this week, Weekly Wednesday is going to be streamed live. So you don't need to sign up. You can just you can just follow Business School of AI here on LinkedIn. And every Wednesday, you'll get this live stream going up. And, if you want, you can engage and respond and talk to us. And the recording will sit there. But if you want to get into engaging with other people in a live discussion, like we are doing here as part of the Zoom, or if you want to go and look at all our past archives, we do this every week. So I have about 50 hours of speaker presentation from around the world, and many of them are my repeating students. I'm very proud of that. So in that case, then you go to Business School of AI and then sign up for Weekly Vet for free, and then you get access to the past recording. Or you can join, follow us on YouTube, and then the recording sits there too. So let me show you.
Violence, to avoid the violence or to do something in that space.
Yes.
Societal impact.
So Yash was talking about how Yani Yankee is talking about using this for
So can you talk about the variables?
Gender violence, to stop gender violence, how IoT could help or what they are doing in the space
that you were discussing.
So basically from our side, we are trying to explore if someone can just wear a very basic bracelet, but it shouldn't be just a bracelet. It should be, we are just trying to see all possibilities. Just like I said, we are still at a very low pilot level to see whether it will work or it will not, but we are all still. The whole idea is how can we explore wearables as a way to actually prevent or report gender-based violence cases in South Sudan. We are looking at something very basic, much less like a bracelet, not something that is very visible, because if it's very visible, someone could also be, their lives could also be endangered.
Okay, so you get the idea there. And what was mind-blowing for me is this bracelet for, women, girls to, just subtly tap, even to give out the location for the cops to know to get to that place, was something that was very practical and grounded in their local problems. Other than that, they had a lot of other things they were doing with the girls, learning to learning to build science and tech, chemistry projects, so many things. And then one of the things I found fascinating was these were questions from audience out there. One of the things I found fascinating was here is an IoT that child is building. They actually wanted to get the parents educated, because the parents need to support the students to go do this, especially for girls. So they, like what in US we called as show and tell, that we get parents to come in after a extracurricular activity or a summer camp. They do that in bringing the parents to understand how amazing the work of the girls is, so that they would support them. So it was very, very fascinating. So that was something that I thought I would share. I have a lot of stuff in the AV space that I want to share with you, but there was one event that I thought was very fascinating today, especially it will lead us to very beautifully to our discussion about UX and blockchain. So I want to show you that. So we had Robert Schwenkter, who is an expert in the blockchain, distributed, decentralized space. So he was the one who brought this to my attention. So he's part of Blue Sky community, who is working on how to create not just blockchain, but some kind of decentralized communication, storage, decentralized everything. So our identity is not stuck in one server with one company, right? And we can own our data. So specifically, they had this session this morning around 9 o'clock my time, 18 hour Nigeria and Europe time, is who's got my data? So how do you do the discovery, security, and scale in a decentralized storage system, as in blockchain? But this is bigger than blockchain, and it's evolving into this new space called Web 3.0. So that got me thinking. And so I'm assuming people here know about blockchain. I cannot do justice to explaining blockchain in 3 seconds, but my understanding is blockchain technology allows you to share data in some kind of central ledger, or like some kind of database, right? It's a central ledger, which is not owned by one company. So a whole bunch of vendors come together and say, okay, here is one blockchain that we are using. Every time we have a transaction, we will put it in there, and everybody will get visibility to that. So it could be a financial transaction, it could be a credit check, it could be any kind of transaction, which is just an entry into the database. So from a practical perspective, one example I would give is going back to my autonomous vehicle spaces. When there is data inside the car and the car is driving autonomously, there are companies who want to own your information, so that how you're driving. So if you drive a Tesla, and Tesla has this today, where if you give permission, they can track your driving behavior from the sensors in the car. All that information goes to Tesla. Tesla makes their own decision on what kind of driver you are, and they have a point system, and then they provide their own insurance. So it's a whole verticalized stack that Tesla is building. But in the general OEM space, the car is made by some manufacturer. The autonomous vehicle stack is built by another tech company, or maybe a subsidiary of this OEM or some partner. And there are several other tier 1, tier 2 providers who provide all the sensors, and there's so many layers. And then the promise of this whole connected autonomous world is there's going to be a data management layer, there's going to be application layers to create the kind of experience that we want inside the vehicle. So the later half today, I'm going to be talking to you about that, where that place is bubbling up into this whole driver management space. But coming back to this whole decentralized ledger and blockchain, what it means is, who owns my data in the vehicle, my driving behavior, my attitude, my emotions, if they're ever able to decipher it. That's not scientifically possible, but there are attempts being done. So who owns all that data from the vehicle today? And there are 3 digital twins tracking all the data in the vehicle today, and there are set of blockchain consortiums who are trying to put this together and say, hey, we are one blockchain consortium, we'll give you a service and you own the data. Everybody else who's involved in providing this is hardware, software, AV tech, or AV sensor, fusion, and the car OEM, all of them get access to the ledger transparently, so there's no manipulation, and you as a consumer get the service, and you say, oh, I don't want to keep my data in there anymore, and then it can be wiped out. So that's an example of a blockchain usage that I've seen. Supply chains are tracked. Again, there are companies who are tracking the supply chain using blockchain. So there's a lot of examples of that. But what fascinates me is, what is UX design? I know UX design is you productize and you create an experience for the customer, usually with a UI, so there's some visibility. It could be a mobile app, or it could be a web interface, or it could be something that I can touch and feel. It could be a robot, it could be a drone, or it could be just a screen, right? But what does that mean in a blockchain sense? And to say that, I want to invite our guest, Sinlin EO. Hi, Sinlin. Thank you for joining us. Are you ready to talk to us now?
Yep. Hi, Sudha and the audience today.
Yes, awesome. So welcome. Thank you for finding the time. I know it's morning for you and you're already into the weekend. So it's a big deal that you took time to talk to us. So tell us a little bit about your background. What do you do? What country you're joining me from? And then what do you do?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Sinlin. So thanks, Sudha, for having me for this session today. I'm calling in from Singapore. I have been in the blockchain space for about 4 years. So I deal with events, and then eventually now I deal with products in the blockchain space, particularly how we can make blockchain more usable for mainstream users. So ideally, UX in blockchain would look like users don't have to know about blockchain, but they are actually using it. That's the end goal that we are striving here.
Yeah. So how did you get into this blockchain space? Especially, are you a UX person? Are you a tech person who went to blockchain? What's your journey?
I got into this space by being exposed to blockchain events. So I hold blockchain events, and then thereafter I did a career switch to UX design. That's where the magic happens, where UX meets blockchain. So that's where I am now.
Okay, so the UX is the customer experience, and you're saying customer doesn't have to know it's blockchain. The customer doesn't have to know there's a database. Customer just needs to know what they get out of this, right? The service experience. That makes sense. You mentioned something like a B2C blockchain and a B2B blockchain. What's the difference?
So for me, in Torus Labs, there are a few services that we offer. One is user-facing, so that's the B2C part, and one is developer-facing, so that's the B2B part. B2C would be having a wallet, let's say. For example, the NFT space is very popular right now. Everyone wants an NFT. To get an NFT, you need a wallet. So that's the B2C part that we're involved in. We design like a blockchain wallet so that people can hold their NFT, buy their NFT. It started with Bitcoin, but now we're into NFT, so that's the buzzword for now. B2B part would be more developer facing. So it means that developers who are building applications, the platform for you to get your NFTs, where do they start? Like, how do they manage their users? What kind of data they can expect in terms of like traffic to their applications, how many people are on and how many people are using which kind of wallet. That's where you have the system or dashboard for developers So that's the B2B where we help them to onboard their users onto the application.
So when you talk about UX, so that's very fascinating. So it could be developers get an API and then they go build something that could become a consumer application layer essentially, or you yourself have a B2C where people can manage a wallet for transacting with NFT. So if somebody is out there and they're just saying, okay, this seems like, I have friends who claim they made so much money from crypto, and there's so much, jargons around it. It's more intimidating. And then you just say, just buy NFT. We'll give you a secure wallet. It's as good as, opening a login and managing your password on, maybe for Gmail or something else, or an app, right? That's what your interface is. Who are your customers? Tell me so you said Torus Lab and these are the services. So what ecosystem are you operating in and who are your customers?
So Torus Labs have this unique key infrastructure that we have to support the decentralized key management. A few of our big customers are like Binance Smart Chain, where they use our key infrastructure to provide users wallet. And the other ones is like Kukai, Kepler. So they make use of like Twitter sign in. You don't even need to memorize the seed phrases. Just use your Twitter handle and you're signed in, you get your account, you can start immediately to just put money in and interact with the blockchain. That's where we want to be, and that's how our customers has been using us. And recently there is like a launch with Ubisoft as well, in terms of the key management that we use with a game app on blockchain.
Yeah. So the space seems to be evolving with so many things. So when you talk about UX and blockchain, and I know that you have a job, posting in there. Do you want to talk to us about the job and tell us a little bit of what does building UX in blockchain? How is it different? As can anybody who is in the UX design space come and do this, or they need to be, trading in cryptos and know all the different things in that universe, or is it something else? Is there like a skill is there a unique skill? Because I know smart technologists who learn blockchain, who can learn anything else with a design sense, right? So are you going to gravitate towards the UX designer and filter them? Are you going to say, hey, I need you to know about the blockchain and then filter them? What's your and tell us a little bit more about the job.
So for this role, we are having vacancies for UX design in our firm. What this entails is, I would say in general, soft skills is what matters most. You have the attitude to question, ask the right question, to find out, to deal with uncertainty and find out what you don't know, what you need to clarify. That would be more than enough to get started on the blockchain space. Yes, it's a bonus if you have like experience in getting your first Bitcoin or NFT, because you already know what kind of problem you need to solve because you have already been through the process. So that's a bonus part. But I would say for us, we are a nurturing team. So we are looking at people who are keen to learn, interested in the space. That's what matters most to us.
That's amazing. It looks like a fantastic environment. I mean, I think that is more important, especially when things shift and that they're ambiguous. You want the people with the right attitude. So that looks amazing. And your company's Torus Lab is based out of Singapore?
Yeah.
And does this person have to be in Singapore, or are you open to remote?
We support remote work because just like blockchain itself, everything's decentralized. So our team is decentralized as well.
That is beautiful. Is there a specific tech platform? And I tend to go towards this because I know when people apply for the job, it sounds amazing, but then they get filtered by some bots or on some keywords and stuff. So that's why I asked this question, because when I share these jobs, I want people to get excited about doing something beautiful out there. At the same time, I don't want them to get hurt, right? That they are in this job process and they're not getting called and things like that. That's why I try to get maximum clarity. So I appreciate you coming here talking to us. So what kind of UX platforms do you use? Do you want the person to know Figma, do everything and then come? Is there like some standard tools or technologies that you use?
Just like any others, we use Figma. We mainly focus on Figma. So that's no issue right there.
Yeah. And is there I know in US we have like design thinking process we go through to come up with the UX flow. And I have friends who work in Europe who are service designers. So is there a methodology that you follow in your UX design process?
Yes, so we follow the design thinking process in terms of ideation and then research and then validating and testing. However, that's subjected to the goal of each sprint that we are at. So sometimes on textbook, we start with like ideation, research, but sometimes we just go right to problem solving and say like, this is what we need to push. And then we will test it and push it out and then see what comes back in terms of having it live and the user feedback from there.
Yeah. So who would this role be interacting with on a typical basis? Is there a product management team? Are they going to work with engineers? Are they directly dealing with customers? And you said for B2C, it's going to be consumers. So what's the
So the team is growing. The stakeholders would be the product owner. So right now it's the CEO of the firm that we work closely with because we're a small startup. And we work with the engineers to clarify any technical differences, as well as the business team who also advise us on what's the next push in terms of marketing, what do we need to inform about what makes business sense. We also work with the support team who tells us that, look, this is the problem that we are facing, especially by the B2C customers. That's why we listen and say like, look, these are some of the things that we have to improve while we add new features.
Yeah. And you don't do specific user research. You're using customer support's input as user research looks like.
We have research, but that's depending on the product at that point. So on a frequent basis, we just listen to the customer support team to get at the issues. But we have like new features that we want to push out. There's big changes. Then we'll have the research being done prior to the push.
That's fantastic. And so where can we find lab information about this?
Information about Torus Labs or the job. I can share the link in Zoom here, but I'm not sure if it's visible to everyone.
Yeah, so what I will do is I'm going to put this on LinkedIn to the people who are watching us live, if I can get to it quickly enough. Yeah, and UX plus blockchain. And can people contact you if I put this on LinkedIn? Can they contact you?
Yes. So bonus for everyone that's dialing in today, just contact me directly and we'll have a chat. You don't have to go through the whole recruitment process.
Okay. And you're open to anybody who's new to this also, right? As long as they have good design sense and and you said it's more like, great attitude, dealing with ambiguity. I can think of some people who can learn the rest of the tech and make it happen. That's fantastic. So I posted that on LinkedIn. The way LinkedIn does is as it streams, at the point of time when you're talking is where this comment is, so it won't show up. If somebody comes in, they have to listen to the whole thing or to this point, or I might be talking about other things, so there'll be other topics and links. So what I do is I have a newsletter that goes out on Sunday mornings to about 1,400 people, and I will embed this recording and I will give all the links and say at what minute is what link, and I share that. So I will share that this one there too. So that one is called bit.ly/Jamte newsletter. So again, bit.ly/Jamte newsletter has all the links and opportunities. Okay. So is there anything you want to add or an advice to anybody else who's getting into this whole blockchain space, especially a UX designer who did not know that they could get into it? Do you have any advice for them?
Yes, my advice is just to get your hands dirty so you know exactly how fun and what are the problems you need to solve in this space. Don't be afraid to ask. You have to start somewhere. Everybody has to start somewhere. So join the amazing journey with us.
Yes. Awesome. Does anybody who's here with us have any questions for Sinlin, and otherwise I'm going to let her go. It's early morning on weekend, and I don't want to keep her here more than necessary. Yeah. Okay. So I'll follow up with anybody who's, coming back from my student circle to see whether, I can make any referral, but I hope you do amazing things. And especially when you're thinking about doing good UX, I'm very excited about it. So thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Sudha. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Have
Bye.
a great evening there. Bye.
Bye. Okay. So now we continue back onto our regular programming. And personally, my interest in the UX space is I focus on AIX, and I have a book called AIX, Designing Artificial Intelligence, which is about creating the UX interface for anything AI. Could be robots, drones, invisible AI, search engines, your chatbot, all kinds of things. And now I think, when you bring AI with all the data from blockchain, there is, an opportunity to do UX there. That was not on my radar. But my focus is specifically how do you create the human-centered interface, so you don't take agency from the human, and you do this, so you do this with the right UX framework that has an ethical foundation, and then layers of behavior and personality, so that the AI is designed to a UX centered interface focused on the customer. So I'm very excited about this UX and blockchain job. And if you are watching this, even if you come back and watch this later from the archive or from the newsletter, be sure to contact Sinlin. She found the time. She's very passionate about this, and they have a remote team, so you can be anywhere and work on this amazing tech, and solving business problems in this cool new futuristic world. So hope you'll benefit from that. Okay, so now moving on to our regular programming, I showed you Yine Yankees Google's ICT, so don't miss that. You can go to Weekly Wed on Business School of AI. Just if you follow Business School of AI on LinkedIn, you should get all the weekly weds, and the recording is there, or it's on our YouTube, and of course I will embed it in our newsletter. So the other thing is, I told you about how Yash was presenting the fairness topic in IoT Slam. We have another exciting thing. So as the AI, the AV space is heating up, there is more happening. So there is one area in AVs called driver management systems, or DMS, which is about putting cameras inside the vehicle and looking at our faces, and then figuring out whether we are awake and alert. Why do they need that? It's a safety hazard that the driver would sleep off and then cause a collision. So that is one. And if it is a truly autonomous vehicle, like a level 3 and onwards, then they need to give control to the human when the car says, "Hey, I cannot drive autonomously." Unfortunately, today the AI in the vehicle decides when to give control to the human. The human doesn't decide about taking control. So it's kind of where the AIX design is today. But I'm focusing on, when you look at driver management system, and all the OEMs are building ADAS systems that will, alert you if you move away from a lane or you fall asleep, and things like that. They're trying to gauge whether you're alert. But the definition of what is alert brings me back to inclusive AI, to what Susanna Raj teaches at Business School of AI. So when you think of AI ethics is about being inclusive and fair and transparent. But the fair part and the unbiased part is not just about, hey, have I included every race equally? Have I included every gender equally? That kind of thing. It is definitely that, because it impacts all of us, and AI has become more and more pervasive in our life. So before we move forward, because I have lots to share in the AV space and what's happening and the opportunities and the like, I have an exciting news. The book called Machine See, Machine Do. I must have told you about it in the past, because that is a book from Patrick Lynn, and it is coming up this next week on December 15th. So what Patrick Lynn did is he looked at historically, where is AI coming from? So we all know AI is being trained by data. So let me show you the cover of Patrick's book. So I was involved in the crowdfunding. So what Patrick did is, Patrick is a law student, and he has worked with organizations like ACLU in the past, and so he's very socially conscientious about what we are doing to bring technology. And he found that there is a historic bias in how society treats each other, and how our criminal justice system carries forward that bias even without tech, and tech becomes a tool to codify that. And so he's written this book. So he started this as a crowdfunding project and saying, if you crowdfund this and there's enough money in it, I'll go get this published. And now he's ready, and I'm excited to hold the book in my hand and bring it to you, because I have a collection of amazing books in my bookshelf here. So machine see, machine do. And so that's what it is, right? Because the machine is trained by data. So next week at this time, we will have Patrick join us and talk to us about his book and the whole world of forensic science, criminal justice system, the whole predictive algorithms. Where are they going? And then he has so much hope and optimism of what is our role in terms of getting involved in this space. And I like the way he does storytelling, right? He tells us various things that exist and fed the data and created multiple AI systems, and who is using it, where is it going, who is doing something about it, what can you do about it. It's just amazing. It's simple, beautiful writing. I just love it. So Patrick will be joining us next week at Sudha Live, so don't miss that. That is going. Next week is in fact going to be our last session for the year, and then we go off into the holidays. So I hope you'll join me to catch that. And coming back to the opportunity I was telling you about, the AV space. So there is another. Let me see whether I have it ready here. There is 1 second. So I told you about Yash and her IoT Slam. I told you about Blue Sky Community Voices, about who's got my data, that happened this morning. Let me check. Yeah, 1 second. Okay. So there is a conference called Machine Learning Developer Summit, and that is happening. That's actually happening in Jan. But the reason I'm telling you about this is I work with 2 of my students. So one of the things we do at Business School of AI is we have this live lab where students or professional adults from a variety of different backgrounds come together, and we try to create or simulate close to a real work environment of diverse people and job roles, and work with some real business company and their business problem and their data to go learn AI. We learn machine learning or NLP, but the classes are not about machine learning or NLP or computer vision. It's a tool to solve a business problem. So how do you make that happen? And in that process, how do you learn the nuances of machine learning and then ML optimization and data engineering and everything else, right? And prioritizing and writing, finding out the right metrics and arriving at the business solve. So that's what we do. And so after the class is done, the students are so wired and they don't want to go home. And so they end up doing other projects together, and they end up publishing. So we've had Henry Mulak, who is an NBC reporter, who's a journalist from NBC, who found time for us to come in at Weekly Wednesday and blog the work of our speakers so far. So Henry is moving on, and after this, he's given us some time, and now he goes off into the holidays. So I want to thank Henry for all his contribution in what he's done in blogging our Weekly Wednesday. So if any of you are interested in blogging, you're welcome, because I would like to give opportunity to my students and learners so that they can benefit from this. So a couple of my students have been working with me on some research papers, and ML Developer Summit or Machine Learning Developer Summit is one such organization, a conference that's coming up. So Yash we spoke about Yash, Yashashwini Vishwanath, Suresh Lokaya, and I have submitted a paper for improving model performance with inclusive construct annotation. So at this Machine Learning Developers Summit that is happening in Bangalore on Jan 19th, and our abstract got accepted, and now we're scrambling to submit the paper. And I can't give too much about it because it's not yet live and published, and since it's going to be published, I can talk about it. But I just want to say that if you've taken Susanna's class and her whole concept of a construct for AI and defining what is a construct for abstract things, so that you have defined classes for the various different ways of looking at a thing or a concept. Like she did this for movement, and she gave us a homework to define movement in an abstract way, but with the ethical construct for it. So we took that concept and say, how do we bring that to machine learning? So that's what we're running with it. So once we are at a stage where it's accepted and we have permission to come share it, I'll be sure to share that with you. And the reason I'm saying that in the concept of AV is we are looking at data in the AV space and driver management space and driver alertness system. And Suresh actually comes with experience from IoT and camera space. So it's been so much fun. So if you're one of my students, if you're working on something in the space, or you want to work with me on some interesting project, talk to me. Otherwise, I will be happy to share that when that happens. And then I think I told you this, there is a paper that has already been published, which was written by me and Ananya Sen, who's also my student, amazing product manager, on the path to autonomous driving in the Journal of AI, Robotics and Workplace Automation in their launch issue, volume 1. So that's one of the other papers. We also have another one about inclusive AI in the AV space that I'm working on with a couple more students, but I'm not privy to talk about that. So I just wanted to share my excitement that I keep talking about AV space, but this is real. It just takes a different form. So if you're new to this and you're thinking, self-driving cars and robo taxis, yes, that's happening in pilot, and it's gone past pilot, and in San Francisco, in China, in Arizona, Phoenix. There are places where you can hop onto a autonomous vehicle as a robo taxi. That's real. It very small scale, right? It's confined as a level 4 vehicle within a small zone. But there are delivery bots like Kiwi bots we talk about. It takes different forms. So the exciting thing for me, it takes a life of its own, and there's no limit to what it could be doing. And then recently we got a vacuum cleaner, like many of us have Roomba. I got a different one, and I want to be brand agnostic, so I'm not going to give you what it is. It is an autonomous vehicle, essentially, driving around and trying to scan our house and map it. And then it gives me a little app, and I can say, this is the living room, and leave the dogs area out and then go vacuum here, that kind of thing. But the tech is about visually looking at the environment. It's called perception space. It's the same that, that drives a self-driving car and runs a robo taxi, or the self-driving car feature in a Tesla, or there's so many possibilities. So but the way it comes into business is there's data in the vehicle, and there are so many ways by which innovation is happening. So it's open to you. When you're hearing this, you say, that looks interesting, maybe I could do something. So driver management system is saying, okay, now can we make the driver inside the vehicle safe? Yes, in an autonomous vehicle, we give control to this driver, but before it happens, there are like thousands and thousands of cars out there. Can we make it safe for the driver? And that is a good thing about safety, but it needs to be inclusive, because they're going to watch us. Are they asking our permission? Where's this data? And is it inclusive? Can it recognize my face the same way as somebody else's face? And all those things come into issue. So it opens up, a world of possibilities to go explore and do interesting things. So I've been focusing on inclusive AI inside the vehicle and driver management space, making UX design inclusive, and not just inclusive, but completely ethical with AIX design. And so that's where I'm going with this. So that's my area of research, at least in terms of teaching. I teach data science for the business users and to go build AI overall, in any kind of area. But if this is something of interest, in maybe you can work with me. So talk to me about that. So that is what I see in the AV space. I think we are reaching the end of our time. I have there's an algorithmic bias in search and recommendation conference that has a call for papers. If this is of interest to you, here's let me share that. And then I have one more exciting thing to close out for today. So this is second international workshop on algorithmic bias in search and recommendation. So if this is of interest, here are the deadlines. And this is more, if you have an idea, abstract, you think that's a hypothesis, you have run something, you can prove it, then here's the date to send it. And the camera ready paper is here. So there's plenty of time. And it's going to be an online event on April 1st, so you can join from anywhere in the world. So think about it. They've given a lot of possibilities, and especially recommendation engine from an e-commerce perspective has been covered by a lot of different research papers, just digging in to even figure out, is this something I want to do? What is anybody doing in that space? Even if you're not going to write a paper or do any research, just using that as a focus is super exciting. I find that every time I open, it's like a Pandora's box, and I learn something new. At least I learned something that I don't know that I know. So it gives me an opportunity to go learn that. There is one more thing that I wanted to share. There is a new department in Berkeley called New Kavli Center at UC Berkeley. And it's focused on ethics and engagement in science. And congratulations for all the people involved. This is amazing. And it's right here in my back door. So I'm super excited. And this is the Professor Stuart Russell is the leader behind this. And in fact, Professor Russell is doing a 4-part series of talks about AI and its implication in society. In 4 different locations in UK. And I believe they have some kind of this Kavli Center for Ethics, Science and the Public is partnering with a second center at the University of Cambridge in the UK. So that could be the connection. But it's amazing to see, a global perspective, and sharing of knowledge always excites me. So check this out. Look out for Professor Russell's talk if you are in UK. That is, it's a much needed topic. There is no end to how much we can talk about AI ethics and how AI is pervasive and what we can do. Every time I hear from any of many of the people I follow in the AI ethics space, I get whole new inspiration. You think you know it, but then there's a new way to connect it to your experience, your passion, your thinking on where you want to take this. So it's just unbelievable. So the last thing I want to show you is there is something called, so what I'm going to show you is called Keynes Neuron Awards. Let me show you that. So this is an opportunity for anybody who is working on some interesting tech. You're a developer or a user of AI at a startup or a large company. They are inviting to submit to be part of this Keynes Neuron Awards. And they've listed, you can participate from any of these groups. And they will, obviously have, projects. It could be any of these projects. They're actually giving a lot of specific details of it. And I believe Jan 15th is the deadline. And there is a money award involved. It's not just, you get listed and say, yes, I got selected to be one of the Keynes neurons. I think that itself is a cool title. I would like to go for it. But where does this fit in? Why should you care how big a deal it is? You would know, because there is a bigger festival that this is part of. That is coming up in February in 2020. So if you're getting ready to wind down for the new year, and then you're like, okay, now, the new year hopefully would be, COVID-free and amazing and all that. Just think about this. This looks like an opportunity. Again, any brand, anything that I'm talking about, I have zero affiliation with any of them. XUP Stanford Continuing Studies, where I teach AI, and Barcelona Technology School, where I teach AI ethics, and Business School of AI, where I'm a founder, and I teach a lot of different topics in related to AI and AB. So just this music made me want to show you this. No, it's just the promise. Look very beautifully this is done. And what it all means with AI everywhere. Culture, sports, and AI. So it's not just another tech event. So it's presented so artistically. Okay, so it's Feb 10 to 12. I'm sure I'll be talking a little bit more about it. And maybe, I'll get somebody from there to, come tell us more. But definitely the immediate opportunity is, as part of this festival, you have the Keynes Neurons Awards. You should submit for that. I will be sharing the link here in LinkedIn and also at my newsletter, bit.ly/Jamte-newsletter. So I actually found a friend of mine was asking a question about, would you dance with an AI in the future if it will help with your health care? And that was a question that came up on Twitter. I had my comments to share, but there was a lot of other interesting people who responded. So I would like to pick that up when we talk about this next week. And that will be our last session on Sudha Live for the year before we go off into the holidays. And don't miss Patrick Lynn, who will be talking to us about Machine See, Machine Do. And maybe you'll buy the Machine See, Machine Do book when it comes live on Wednesday. So with that, I want to wrap up. Everybody stay safe. Have a fantastic weekend. Have a beautiful week ahead. And I will see you next week. I'll see you at Weekly Vet next Wednesday, or maybe I'll see you at Sudha Live next week. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And if you're already taken off for the holidays, have a fabulous holiday season, and I'll see you in the new year. Thanks, everybody. Bye. Okay. Let me close this live